Okay, quiet please. We're going to do this tutorial again. Show you how to go all the way through the creation of a lower third that has an appearing name. Here's the end product, what it's going to look like. You're going to have a name appear and your logo appear, location, additional info or descriptor, any two other bars of title or text that could appear, and everything in the lower third needs to move. All right, what we're going to start with is it'll have an entrance and an exit, and this just kind of goes out, right? So what we start with is a multi-layered Photoshop document. This should be already created. It needs to have many layers, and your layers need to be separate. Okay? You should be able to turn them on and off by themselves. If you label them, it'll make it even easier when you go through the whole thing. All right? How we start this is with a new composition. Or even a new project. I'm just going to do a new composition under the composition menu. Okay, comp 1. I want it to be a 10-second duration because that's plenty time for people to get all the information, right? And no, I'm not going to do a new composition. I'm going to do a new project so that I don't have all this stuff in here, because part of it is I want you to see the process of importing a multi-layered document. So, do we have a composition here? No, we need a new composition. All right, 10 seconds is good. 29.97. Should be the same aspect as your Photoshop document, same size. And hopefully you built that in Photoshop with that in mind. So now we're going to import, and we'll go to multiple files. When you go to multiple files, this import multiple files dialog box just keeps popping up when you go through this. So I'm going to choose my lower third one PSD, and instead of merge layers, I'm going to go to choose layer, and I'm going to choose, starting from the top and working my way down, every one of the layers that I want to keep. So I want to keep shield, yep, and merge layer styles into footage. If you have any layer styles on, that's a good idea. And it just pops right back up. So I'm going to go through all of them as quick as humanly possible now. Choose layer, move down, take location additional info, hit it again. Notice that just keeps popping up. I'm going to get on the icon itself. Choose layer, descriptor, name, yada yada yada. All right, and let's zoom ahead, assuming that I've done all of this stuff. Skipping any layers that you don't want to come in.
You choose all the layers individually?
You have to choose them individually, yeah. Or else they will come in as separate ones, right? I'm skipped over the required items because that was a layer I didn't want on there. And I could see them popping up over here so that I know, which ones I have done already. When you start getting into unnamed layers, it's difficult to remember which ones, especially when you have, like I have, a copy. I have this layer 4 copy, and then I also have another layer 4. Those are just lines, the little animated background stuff. So choose layer, layer 3, we're getting there. The last one is the background layer, and I don't want to keep my background layer, so I just won't get that one. I'll do 2 and then 1. And then I'm done. Now, this last one, I just hit done, and then I'm finished. So now I've got all my layers in here, and I can take them, since they all happen to be selected right now, I can tell because they're lighter gray, and drag them right down to my composition down bottom. Okay? Because I brought them in the order that they were stacked in the Photoshop document, because I brought them all down together, they should be stacked and ordered in the correct way on my composition. That is important. If you go dragging them in different orders, again, you're going to be reordering the stack and undoing any layer ordering that you did in Photoshop. Now, at this point, they are still just the way that you had them in Photoshop, and I'm going to suggest you go through each one at a time, twirling down this right pointing arrow, not on all of them, but going to, clicking anywhere off that to get just one of them, and going to transform to do simple animations on each one. All right. In order to do an entrance and a pause through the middle and an exit for things like the name, descriptor, location, and our shield here, what we're going to do is we're going to do an entrance animation that could take 1 second. And I'm going to put my position. Let's just do position only on this one. Go ahead and mark it here by turning on my little stopwatch under next to position. Then I'm going to go ahead and go right down to 9 seconds, and I'm going to click my add or remove keyframe at current time. So now I know between these two keyframes, nothing's going to happen, right? And all I need to do is go back to the beginning, and I can either use my sliders for position to pull this guy off, or at the end, where I have it still sitting here, you could click physically, so long as you have the arrow, on your guy and move it out. The only danger to doing that is it might not go off perfectly straight unless you hold shift, right? So now I've got exactly what I want to do for each individual layer: an entrance animation, a pause between two keyframes that are the same values, right? And after 9 seconds, it will leave. Now it's going to come right back in because this is just showing me it in a loop. But if I were to export this as a movie, it would come in, pause, all the way through, and leave, and it would be done. And all of my stuff at the end of this animation would leave, okay? You can make the whole animation disappear if you want to at the end. It's just a matter of going through each individual thing and twirling it down, twirling it back up at the end so that you stay organized. I suggest you start at the top and work your way toward the bottom so that by the time you're done, each layer animates and it should look like we did before. See, at this point I have entrance strategy for my top 4 layers, my 3 layers of text, and my shield. They all come in with opacities, and then the shield does a position movement, and you see at the end they all leave. So this is them exiting and then entering back up. All right. For this layer 6, and you can figure out what's on that layer most easily, I think, by turning on and off your little eyeball there. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a scale and a position animation so that this thing kind of like animates throughout time, the whole time. Okay? I'm going to turn it on for the middle where it is. Just go right to the middle. And again, I'm turning on scale and position. Right? Now I'm going to go back to the beginning, and under scale, there's the little chain link which says constrained proportions. That means that it locks the height and the width together, and when you take that off, it will allow you to change the width independently of the height. So just doing this with a width kind of thing there allows me to make it wider, and maybe I'll make my position even a little bit further to the right. Okay, so now this thing's going to sort of move left and shrink in scale as it comes down. Maybe I want that to happen kind of just after the shield comes in. So the shield comes in at 1 second. Well, it could be coming in this whole time. And I'll have it slowly kind of move out, sort of predicting the movement of the shield going out. So then I'm going to go to the end here, and again I'm going to do my scale and position, but this time I'm going to drag it back the opposite way and make my scale much bigger. So now it'll kind of do this double move out here. So it comes in, and immediately, because I never set up a pause in there, it's going to start moving out. See how that looks. You don't really see it yet. You can kind of see in the gradient it's moving, but that check just kind of comes in and expands as it's moving out and apparently disappears. And by check, I mean this little piece that kind of goes up on the right side. Okay? So now that is moving. It's not a crazy movement. It's somewhat made more subtle because it's behind of the little logo here, our shield. But it also doesn't mess with any parts that go behind or in front of the text, which is the most important thing we want to keep readable. All right? Again, to keep myself organized, I'm going to twirl this back up and go on to my next one. Okay? That's this big one up top here. And I'm going to do something similar with that one because it's a similar shaped piece. Twirl down, transform, go to about the middle, turn on position and scale. All right? And this time I'm going to use my scale, again, unchecked because I only want my width. Right? I'm going to go super wide. But I want my position when it's that wide to be such that it's kind of like centered up a little bit, right? So now as it shrinks, it'll sort of keep that center piece going. And it's really only affecting the sides here, right? And it's kind of calling your attention in to the information that's there. And again, I'll go to the end, and I'll make my position, well, I'll do my scale first, and bring it back out, and slide my position back over. So we still get our little tabletop kind of check up and check down, but the whole of the animation is moving. That piece is moving throughout the whole of the animation. And calling your attention into the middle. All right. I have just a few more things to animate. I'm going to do these little boxes on the right and the left in a similar way. Those are my layer 4 copies, right? And you'll see with the one here, and then I'll skip ahead. Transform on this one. Again, I'm going to do scale and position and uncheck this. Make the scale come across. Oh, I forgot to set it where it was in the beginning. Let me just undo with Control Z. All right, I've got it there. Maybe I'll let this one pause for a bit. So I set it there, put it in the middle. Give it a pause by setting a couple more keyframes at the same value. Remember, clicking on our add keyframes at a different time makes keyframes at the same value. And then I go back to the beginning, make my width scale much wider. We'll go much, much wider and bring my position over. Out of frame, maybe even. So this comes in kind of with everything else. And then it's just going to sit there for a bit. And let's move it out. With the scale as well. So it'll start expanding as it's moving off screen, which is kind of cool. In the end, I want all of this to disappear, and that can be done with a very quick opacity animation for any of those elements that we've just had moving around so far. We'll just add that in at the end. So for my layer 5, that top white layer, I just go right to the end in the last half second. I can turn on opacity at 100 and take it to 0. How did I do that? How did I do that? You know what I'm saying? And I'll make it go back in the beginning the same. Even a quarter second could work. Add it in, go back, make it 0. So the whole thing appears in a way that doesn't act like a cut. So it comes in, it's moving. We got all kinds of stuff moving already. Moving in the background. I might want to change this little part here because it kind of gets a little too close to the word info, I think. But that should be pretty good. We're getting there.